Welcome to a podcast about wealth and life. We all know that our finances play a big part in how we live our lives. In this podcast, the advisors from Foster and Motley share insights and information about investment and financial planning topics and how they connect to your life.
Just as water flows in and out, so does cash, although hopefully not as quickly on the outbound side. Well, Luke Hale of Foster and Motley is with me, Patrice Sikora, to talk about cash flow and how you can influence the outcome. All right, Luke, cash flow, in, out, what's so big about it and why are we talking about it?
It's really exciting when you stop to think about it. It's cash and the way that we spend it, our financial life defines us. You know, it defines what we do, the fun that we get to have, the charities that we may choose to support, our family members, our family, if we're raising a family, and, you know, it can define the school that your kids go to. So how the money coming in to your household and how it flows out are really important pieces of us as people. They define what we're doing in the world in many ways.
Well, then it seems to be the first step that people really need to understand is, what do they need?
That's exactly right. And it's really that definition of, it's a financial definition of a person. So as a financial planner, we work on trying to define who you are as a person and what you like to spend money on. What do you think is important? And we have to understand that with a detailed analysis. Now, there is a dirty word in cash flow. It's called budgeting.
Oh.
And I hate that word. It just doesn't do anything for me. And it's a very negative thing. It's a limiting kind of word. And cash flow, if you understand who you are as a financial person, it's freeing, not limiting, because then you know how you're using the resources at your disposal. And here's the really exciting part. You get to know when enough is enough. So if I can define the pieces of your cash flow, or help you define the pieces of your cash flow when we work with a client is always a joint experience. It's a working together experience. It's not me doing it for you. So let's figure this out together. But when we've got it figured out, if we know a $10,000 a month cash flow meets your needs and your definition of what you have laid out as a lifestyle, then we can develop the number that you need to ultimately have in the bank, have in a brokerage account that allows that to continue infinitely. And that is the definition of financial freedom. So understanding who you are financially in the form of a cash flow leads to all these other fun things.
And yeah, as you said, the word budget, people hear that and they balk. They say, I don't need a budget. But cash flow kind of sounds idyllic, almost like nature. Let's go and, go through the meadows and we'll go do some cash flow.
I think it sounds cool. Like if you know your cash flow, you know where you're going because and you know where you've been. Mm-hmm. So, and cash flow can change through the years. If you're a younger person, the money's being spent in different ways and different amounts of money. And then it changes and then it changes again. So there's probably 5 different chapters in people's lives as far as cash flow is concerned. You're kind of getting started and developing a financial kind of foundation, and then accumulation, and then, spending on some fun things. Once we understand the cash flow and we understand your goals, and that's where it gets fun too, because we can say, hey, how about a lake house? Now that we're meeting my regular goals, how about this? How about that thing that I've always wanted? Or how about this experience with my family that I've been putting off? Are we finally there yet? Can we afford that? And with a cash flow analysis, we know that stuff and we can say, yeah, go for it. You can do X, Y, or Z. You can, you have more than enough. You can afford to give to your favorite charity in a way that you never imagined possible. But if you don't know your cash flow, you don't have confidence in any of those answers to those questions.
So where do we start?
I think for a working person, you start with your paycheck. You start with your pay stub. Most of those are online now, so you don't get the paper pay stub like you used to. You have to kind of go look for it through 17 passwords and all that stuff. But once you get there and you know the net amount of your pay, that's a starting point. That's your net. So if you earn $10,000 a month, $8,000 a month, you know that's a big piece of your cash flow. That is the net amount after you've saved, after you've paid your income taxes, assuming they're properly withheld and you don't owe more at the end of the year. That takes care of your healthcare expenses largely, if those are withheld from your paycheck. So we know a good after tax, after savings cash flow. The other key pieces are paying of debts. So once you get your net payment from your working efforts, then you have to pay your debts. And debts, if you're in a reasonable financial position, debts will go away at some point. So your cash flow will be different now when you're making a mortgage payment than it will be later when your mortgage is paid off. So we understand where your big chunks of money are going, your debts and things like that, after your net pay. So understand your net pay, understand your debts, understand what's left. And that gives you a great start to see that what's left number is how you're living your life. Mm-hmm. And then we can use that number to back into all these other more interesting problems.
But now those are big numbers, but there are also going to be little numbers in there. Do people have to take the time to look at those little numbers?
As a financial planner, I've taken strategies on that over the years. Early in my career, I was really interested in where every dollar went. And now I don't care as much. I just don't care. I don't care how much you spend on cable or your cell phone or, going to the grocery store. I do care about that big number. If you take all those things and add it up, what's the big number? Because that defines how you want to live. You have your television things, your cable or satellite or whatever, you have those things in place because that's what you want. Your cell phone is the way it is because that's what you want. Mm-hmm. I think it's good for you to know if that still meets your needs, but it's really, I focus on the bigger number because I am satisfied that the way that you have your life spending set up is probably reasonably appropriate. And when we look at cash flow, we do look at ways to enhance your cash flow. But so if we say, hey, Patrice, it looks like you're spending $10,000 a month, but your savings is on track to support an $8,000 a month spend based on when you want to change jobs, retire, go on sabbatical, then we leave it up to you to go figure out if that $2,000 a month spend that is happening in your cash flow is important. If it's important, then you decide that maybe you delay the sabbatical a year or whatever. Or if it's not important, you say, I really am eating out a lot. I would get a lot more value out of going on my sabbatical in a year than I would eating out 3 times a week. Maybe I should cut it back to just Saturdays.
Well, now you mentioned there are stages to this, to your spending and your savings and your earning. Where do we usually start? What is the first stage?
Well, we meet you where you are. So a lot of our clients will come in somewhere in the middle. So not at the beginning of their career. They've accumulated some assets or a lot of assets, depending on when they find us and determine that they could use a financial planning, investment management, wealth management firm. So we meet you where you are. Typically, we're meeting people when they are probably mid-40s. We have plenty of time to make adjustments, make suggestions that'll be very beneficial to them. We've got some time on our side, but we meet people in their 60s too. And the same principles come into place in your 60s as in your 40s. We just have to understand where the cash is flowing. And as you said, is it flowing fast? Is it flowing slow? Do we need to slow it down a little bit to meet your goals? Or is it just fine? And we just need to get it organized, and we need it to gain some understanding around it to allow you to go do your thing, not worry about cash flow. You know, it's on track. You've got enough, and you're spending intentionally in the way that you want to spend. And that's what we help people do.
All right. So basically, you've got a foundation stage, accumulation stage, and then financial independence. Tell me about that one.
That's kind of fun. You're working because you want to, but not because you have to. That word retirement, I think, is almost as bad as budgeting. Because retirement implies you don't do anything anymore. You're retired from the engagement in society. Financial independence implies that you now are at a point where finances aren't the primary driver of your energy output. You're doing it because you want to. So we help people understand financial independence via cash flow.
All right. You've talked about the need for the baseline knowledge, putting together what's coming in, what's going out, the big stuff. Tell me about coming to you for some help. What do you offer?
Well, we offer an ear. We listen first and foremost to you and what defines the things that are important in your life. And then we try to put some numbers around those. And it's a conversation. It's two-way conversation. So our services are very much a conversation and a process. So you don't figure this out once and go away. It's an ongoing thing because it changes. If you're a older person and you have grandchildren, well, that changes your desired spending pattern, or lots of things, health and families, things can work negatively, and we need to make adjustments to deal with negative adjustments. So when people come to us, it's a conversation. So let's have a conversation. Let's understand what's important to you. Let's put some numbers around it, and let's see if your cash flow is okay to support your goals.
And how can people reach you, Luke?
I think we have some great information on our website. It's www.fosterandmotley, and it's all spelled out, ANDMOTLEY.com. And look at our website and see if you see anything that appeals to you and you see how we may be beneficial. And then just give us a call. We are people. We pick up the phone. We talk to you. There's everything we do is in great confidence, and the confidentiality is right at the top of our list of things that are important. So have a confidential phone call with us. Let's see if we can help. If we can, we'll tell you how the process works, how much it costs. We're very transparent with all those things. We're doing a lot of good work here for a lot of good people. We'd love to do more work for more good people.
Thanks, Luke. And for listeners, for more insight and information, follow this Foster and Motley podcast about life and wealth. Please rate and review and share with others. I'm Patrice Sikora.
Thank you for listening to Foster and Motley, a podcast about wealth and life. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information discussed and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Foster and Motley. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional financial advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions regarding your financial planning and investments. Foster and Motley is not affiliated with any third-party providers. Any mention of a third-party provider does not imply an endorsement of that provider. If you decide to utilize a third-party provider, you do so at your own risk.